What's up, party people? We're back. Back to the old system this week, okay? I didn't like the look of the last video, so I'm back to the camera. Also, we're doing a third giveaway in a row. This time we're giving away a copy of James Joyce's Ulysses. It's in great condition. I already have a copy, so this one's going to you guys. Also, we did the draw for the one a couple weeks ago, and Rachel 2016, you won the copy of Middlemarch. So I responded to your comment. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, contact me and we'll get it shipped out to you. Oh, and for entering the giveaway on Ulysses, it's the same as the last two. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I'll pick a winner randomly. All right, first up in the stack from this week, we have a copy of The Rebel by Camus. Okay, Camus, if you are like to pronounce things literally. But I think it's Camus. Born 1913, I believe. He was the first guy, or the second youngest winner of the Nobel Prize when he got it, age 44, only beat out by Rudyard Kipling, age 41. This is apparently seen as the sequel to the myth of Sisyphus, because it deals with the same sort of themes of absurdism and meaning of life and all sorts of, broad philosophical things like that. Apparently it's a book-length essay, so it's not fiction, it's a nonfiction, and it deals with rebellion and revolt as being kind of core human tendencies. Yeah, cool. One more note about Camus that's kind of interesting. He died only 2 years after getting his Nobel Prize at 44, so he died at 46, in an automobile accident. He was driving with one of his publishers, I think, and the car veered off the road and he hit a tree and he died instantly. And then people were just thinking it's like a sad thing, but later they kind of discovered, or there was like rumors that like the KGB had intentionally put some sort of device that would pop the tire when it reached a certain speed. And that's what caused the car to veer off the road, because it was middle of summer, right? There was no ice or snow or rain on the road, and the road was straight, and the guy wasn't speeding. Camus was in the passenger seat, so yeah, kind of a conspiracy there in regards to his death. Pretty interesting. Next up here, we have Wordsworth Poetry Library, First World War poetry. Okay, so there's actually it's kind of short, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Okay, we've got all the big names. We've got Rupert Brooke. We've got G.K. Chesterton. We've got Thomas Hardy. We've got Rudyard Kipling. A.E. Housman. Who else? Yeah, Yeats is in here too. And of course, we also have the famous John McCrae in Flanders Fields, which, as a Canadian, that's like a culturally important piece of work. Anyways, yeah, happy to find this. Kind of in bad condition, but it works, so I'm happy with that. These ones are all 50 centers, by the way, at one of the book sales. Next up, I got scammed, okay? This is the poetry of Alexander Pope, as you can see, although it is actually not the poetry of Alexander Pope. It is the critical analysis by David Ferrer of the poetry of Alexander Pope. So there's no actual poetry from Alexander Pope in the poetry of Alexander Pope. So yeah, massive disappointment there. Yeah, anyways, Alexander Pope, 1688. One of his famous works, Heart of Midlothian, I think, but also Rape of the Lock, which I actually recently read, because it's in my Norton anthology of poetry that I'm slowly picking my way through, and that it was good. I mean, there was kind of parts where I kind of lost it, just because it lost the thread because of the archaic language, but it is good. The title is not what you think it is, okay? Rape of the Lock, it was referring to an older definition of the word rape, which is to snatch or to steal. And the lock is not a padlock, but a lock of hair. So you could translate the title into modern English as the snatching of the hair. And basically, it's written about a true event, which is some guy and some girl who are like courting. The guy like clips off a lock of her hair. And in the poem, he does this because he wins at cards or something. So like his bounty or his prize is he gets this lock of hair from her. And in real life, apparently, the girl and her family was like super outraged at this, like there's like a dishonor thing. And so the guy enlists Alexander Pope to sort of restore the friendship, and so he trivializes the event, and kind of in the poem, the girl kind of has like a good response to it and forgives him, and he writes this poem in order to like restore the relationship between the guy and the girl's family. So yeah, it's a funny poem. And the reason it's funny is because he makes this small event of the stealing of the hair into this grand thing where he kind of pulls from Homer and like makes it kind of like an epic event, when really it's just nothing at all. Next up on the list, we have the first book I've ever purchased by Thomas Pynchon. Now I realize that there are some really ardent Pynchon zealots out there who probably are going to pick me apart if I say anything wrong about Pynchon. American writer, okay, born, 1913, something like that. No, maybe, yeah, 1913. Camus was 1937. Pynchon's 1913. I hope I'm not messing that up. Anyways, his famous work is Gravity's Rainbow, which is like a very complex, dense work. I don't have a copy, but I do have Vineland. And apparently this one was like didn't receive great critical reception. People like didn't like it as much. What's it about? It's about a CIA or FBI operative who has like a relationship with this radical filmmaker girl. Apparently it happens all through flashbacks for people who had life in the who lived their youth in the 60s and are now experiencing the re-election of which president was it? I don't remember. 1984, whatever president was. Nixon? Is that Nixon? I don't know. I'm not an American. Sorry, guys. I should study that up, though, so I can get my citizenship. Yeah. So, Vineland. Looking forward to reading it. Not sure I'll read it anytime soon. But, yeah. Cool. Next up, we have D.H. Lawrence's Selected Letters. Okay? It's always cool to get the selected letters of different classic authors. I don't have too many letters. I think I have Nabokov's letters, and I think I maybe have some C.S. Lewis letters, maybe not, I don't know, I don't have that many letters, unfortunately, but yeah, gotta be careful with D.H. Lawrence. He writes spicy stuff, so I actually don't collect him, even though he's a classic author, so I'm hoping these letters are more so like about writing, and about kind of his thoughts on the creative process, and maybe some autobiographical stuff. Anyways, we'll see. If it's too spicy, I'm gonna have to throw it away. Not throw it away, sorry. Give it away or donate it. Because one day when I have kids, I want them to be able to pull anything off the shelf. And graphic sex scenes is not something I want in my house. Anyways, yeah, cool find. Lastly, in our stack today, we have my first book that I've able to pick up from James Baldwin. He was the American civil rights activist and author, playwright. This book, Going to Meet the Man, is actually not a book. It's a collection of 8 short stories. And yeah, he was contemporary with the beat writers, which are like people who catalog like kind of the down and out people of like the lower end of society, who kind of like drug addiction, homelessness, things like that. I'm not sure if you'd categorize Baldwin as a beat writer, even though he was chronologically at the same time as the beat writers. The back of this cover makes it seem like the short stories are like beat style. But yeah, I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, I guess the last thing to discuss would be our Flannery O'Connor short story, which was an interesting one today. Okay, not the best, not the worst, but definitely worth talking about. And that is The Comforts of Home. Okay, our main character, his name is Thomas. He's a 35-year-old history writer who is kind of, how would you call it? Still dependent on his mother, which is interesting because many of O'Connor's short stories actually deal with these kind of failure to launch artists. If you remember from Good Country People, we have the daughter Joy, that heavy blonde girl, also named Hulga. I think that's the name she gives herself, who's a failed philosopher. We also have in, what was the story called? The Enduring Chill, that was from last week. Asbury, he's the failed New York, I forget if he's a writer or what he is, artist guy, right? Comes home. I think he's a poet and playwright. Failed from New York, comes back home, still dependent on his mother for money. And then this week, Comforts of Home, we have 35-year-old Thomas, history writer, who's still dependent on his mother. So kind of a theme in O'Connor. I wonder if that's like semi-autobiographical. I'm not sure if O'Connor like lived off of money from her parents or not. But yeah, she was like a older kind of recluse writer type. So I wonder if she was like kind of self-inserting or like doing some semi-autobiographical stuff with these stories. Who knows? Anyways, in this short story, we have Thomas, right, our 35-year-old protagonist. He lives with his mother. I forget his mother's name. I should remember. I'm so bad with names. Even in books, in real life, it doesn't matter. I don't remember. It'll say in here somewhere. Okay, I don't want to waste your time. I can't find it. Anyways, Thomas's mother. And she hears in the paper about this girl who is only 19, and she's gone to jail for passing bad checks, which means she writes a check to herself from somebody that's not real, and then cashes it to get money. So she gets caught, gets put in jail, and Thomas's mother feels very bad about this. Thomas is like, don't do this, but he's kind of interested, so he lets his mom go out and, pick up this random girl. His mother pays for her to be put up in like a boarding house, and like kind of finds her a job at the pet store and like does all these nice things for her. But the girl has some sort of like psychopathy, or like she's unable to like regulate her behavior properly. The girl claims she's a nymphomaniac, although like sexual stuff doesn't really play a large role in the story, so it's kind of strange. But I guess nymphomaniacs, I think, have that same sort of thing where they maybe have like OCD style tendencies, where they like think about something compulsively, or they can't control their behavior. Anyways, she has some sort of mental issue, and so she gets put up, but then eventually, after a few weeks or whatever, she loses her job at the pet store because she's totally drunk and like blackout drunk and just can't control herself. And so she gets kicked out of the boarding house, nowhere to go. Thomas's mom picks her up and brings her home. Now, throughout this entire time, Thomas really does not like this girl. He is like telling his mother, don't bring her here, don't get involved with this. And then when his mother brings her home, this girl who's crazy, her name's I think it's like Sarah something, but she calls herself Star, which is kind of like a weird thing. Anyways, Thomas gives his mother an ultimatum, like, you got to choose this girl or me, because this girl's driving me crazy. I think it's a bad decision. And Thomas's mother doesn't really believe him and is too charitable and brings the girl home anyways. And then Thomas is like, she's got to be out in one day. 3 weeks later or whatever it is, she's still there. So, and then throughout this entire time, Thomas is having like these, like, not voices in his head, but like this impulse or thoughts like from his father, because his father is dead, but his father was like a very scrupulous, kind of not aggressive, but like preemptive sort of person, where he would not tolerate this sort of thing, right? Kind of a strict guy. So if the girl was coming in, he would say stop, like, and he would like get her out, or he'd frame her for something and put her back in jail, right? Anyways, I think it mentions that he would get her drunk and then give her his car and then tell the police that there's a drunk driver and then get her arrested or something. Kind of just a scheming type of fellow. And so he's having these like thoughts from his late father, like, you should do all these things to get her out of the house. And he's like resisting. It's not that he's resisting the urge. I think he just kind of like doesn't really have the confidence, or he's kind of like a coward and like doesn't do it. But I mean, there is sort of like a good impulse in Thomas as well, so I don't want to totally discount him. Anyway, eventually he does act up, and he goes to get the sheriff because he notices that his handgun is missing. And at this point, the girl's already like threatened suicide and stuff, and she's acted flirtatiously towards him because she's like, oh, Tomsy doesn't like me. And Thomas is like, stop calling me that, like, get out of here. And so she like attempted suicide. And so there's just like all this drama. And the mother still doesn't kick her out or get her help. She kind of just keeps Sarah, or Star, in the house. And so Thomas goes out to the sheriff. I forget what his name is, but he gets him to come and says, well, look in her purse or her room because she's got my gun. And so Thomas gets there before the policemen to open the door. He notices that his gun is back on his desk, so he's like, what the heck? She put it back. And now the cop is coming. But then he gets this flashback from his father. plant the gun. So he's like, okay, I gotta plant the gun. He plants the gun in her purse. She wakes up and he's like, what are you doing? His mother comes in at that time, and then the sheriff pokes his head in right as Thomas, I forget exactly what happens. I think the Star attacks Thomas first. She grabs the gun, and so Thomas grabs the gun from her, and then she goes crazy and goes to like attack his throat, and so Thomas goes up to defend himself to shoot her. Not that he needs to shoot her. He's a big guy. He could have defended it without that. But I think he's using her attacking him as an excuse to try to kill her, get her out of the situation. And then his mother jumps in front and gets killed by the bullet. And then the policeman sticks his head in right as this is happening and falsely interprets the situation as, oh, Thomas wanted to kill his mother and blame this random girl. And so Thomas is really the one at fault of this whole thing. And so that's where the story ends, but it's assumed that Thomas will either be put in jail permanently or maybe be killed for killing his mother. So, and then Star gets off scot-free. So yeah, it is a very interesting plot. It was kind of a good setup. It kept me reading for sure. It was very engaging. Yeah, so great story. Definitely would recommend it. All of these are good. But yeah, before we sign off, just remember we've got the copy of Ulysses. So please comment, like, subscribe, so you can potentially win that. Flop check on Ulysses, which is remarkable because look how many pages this thing is. It's almost 1,000, and it's thick. And we've got an amazing flop on that. So yeah, you definitely want this copy, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you next week.